Welcome to Redeeming Thunder. I'm here to give you a prophetic word regarding why there has been a holdup, delay of the prodigals returning. And it has a lot to do with some witchcraft. So in other words, like a voodoo doll. Some voodoo stuffed animal is in the mix with this prophetic dream that I received. Okay, so there are individuals in your life, okay, that are doing some witchcraft that are had been preventing, okay, the prodigals to return on the, and so you're gonna think, well, I don't see anybody, in my family friend list that, you know, is, and you're like, what? Why'd you say family friend? Because it is not a random witch in this world that does potions in a cauldron pot, okay? Some of these witchcraft is coming from individuals who practice New Age, okay, customs and rituals. Some of this witchcraft is coming from those who practice slander and gossip, spirit of rebellion, and stubbornness. Some of this witchcraft is manifesting through bought items, and they brought them into their own home, and it could have been cursed already, okay? And that's why I used to love going to the antique shops, and I always wanted to get some kind of trinket treasure, but I don't do that anymore because some of those items, a lot of those items are coming from other homes from generations, and they're cursed. Okay? Now, I'm going to jump into the dream. This has a lot to do with the prodigals. And I woke up crying. I woke up crying in this dream, and that's why it was so significant. Okay. This dream I received on 4/23/2025. Yahusha says to post all of the videos I have regarding the prodigals, because once I'm done posting those up, they are ready to return. Okay? So this was given to me on 4/25/2023/2025. I'm now recording this in October 2025, so that's about 6 months out. Okay? This could be showing things that were in the past, or what happened in your past, or was happening. Okay? It seemed like when I get into the dream, it seemed like the individuals weren't aware that something was cursed inside their room, or maybe didn't know that I would know that something was cursed, of one of their belongings was cursed, okay? Or that they would do that. They maybe thought that I would not know that they had maybe something involvement in it, or Ruach HaKodesh says, or have perceived their involvement, that I would not perceive that they were their involvement. Okay? So in the dream, my husband and I went to an ancestor's house. And during that time, I could tell that another ancestor had just moved in. There was bunk beds in that room that was once her room, okay? During this time in real life, though, they had moved back in that house in real time. All right. But in my dream, I somehow, so it's giving a timeline, I guess. Okay, so in the dream, in that ancestor's house, I walked by a room that was my old room, and it was very simple, and there was no furniture in there. Okay, so as I walked around in that home, I walked in and out of each room, and I saw something in particular made me take a second look, and it was the other ancestor's bedroom. And there was a hanging net of stuffed animals. And as I opened the door, but I didn't go in to the room just yet. Okay, I was standing at the threshold, at the doorway. There was one particular teddy bear that in that pile of toys, okay, that was hanging in the room. Now in real life, I don't see anything like that, okay? So it's showing me something in the dream that would lift up its head and turn its head like it was like, possessed or something, a toy. And in the moment when I saw that, I said, in the name of Yahusha, get out of here. But it was a struggle to say it out loud in the dream. And I left and I walked over to the master bedroom, and that room was empty. So in the dream, my husband was downstairs, and when I walked back to the rooms, it was getting late and I was getting tired. And in that moment, I'm not sure why I'm even in the house. Okay, I'm just walking back and forth through looking in the threshold of each room. I bent down in my old room, and then I went back to the other ancestor's room, the one that had bunk beds. And I looked up and saw that hanging net. Okay, almost like a deja vu sort of a thing, it seems like. And a pile of stuffed animals were in that hanging net. And then I saw that one purple Care Bear. So the teddy bear that I saw earlier was purple, right? Lavender purple. Lifted its head and turned its head. And I was at the threshold, and I walked in this time. And I stared at it. And that teddy bear looked back at me. And I said, in the name of Yahusha, get out of here. Because I knew it was possessed, teddy bear. And I kept saying it, but my voice wasn't getting loud, as if I felt held back. Again, I walked down the hallway to the master bedroom. That room had no light, only light in the hallway, and then back to my old bedroom, and I knelt down. And that room had a dim light. Then I went to the ancestor's room. There was a lamp near the door. And I entered, and this time I had a bag and I had a weapon. And I grabbed the purple Care Bear. So I reached up and I grabbed it, right? And I perceived that there was 2 other stuffed animals that were cursed. And there was a stuffed animal that was black, and then a black and white one, and then another one. I sliced the Care Bear. And then I realized it's still moving. So I used the weapon, and the head was severed off. Okay. Then I took out the stuffing, and there was a black gadget inside the bear. I put the shredded bear in the white trash bag, and I went downstairs to take it outside the back. That's when I saw my husband again downstairs. I noticed I had on light purple PJs. I opened the back door. It had glass. It was a glass door. And since it was dark and rainy, I left it out on the porch. Thought to go take it out to the trash can around the corner of the backyard in the morning. First, I wanted to tell the people who lived in that house what I just had found. I had the door open and I tried to yell, in the name of Yahusha, you are done destroying my family. In the name of Yahusha. But my voice wasn't coming out loud, as if I had tightness in my throat. I closed the door, looking at the bag through the glass door, praying and stating it in the name of Yahusha over and over. Finally, I was able to say it loud, a loud voice with freedom. I turned around and now the house looked like my current home. Wood floors, and I'm walking towards the front door. There was light on in the house, and people are at the door. They come in. It's my son and my daughter. Okay. And a couple other ancestors. And my son and my daughter are the prodigal children, but they look younger. They meet me halfway from the living room, excuse me. And my son sits right next to me, to my left, and the other ancestor sits next to him. And he is so excited to see me. He's a super sweet boy. And he's super loving, and he's smiling, and his eyes are shining. So he looks younger, right? And then I say, there's something that I have to tell you. And I said, there was a cursed stuffed animal that was moving by itself, and I grabbed it and threw it away, and I also prayed for the house. Then I said, something else I need to tell you, I said, looking at him. And I say, in the future, when you are a little older, you will not be cheerful to see me. And the other ancestor would say, that's right. And he looked at me puzzled, because in the dream, he looks to be maybe about 8 or 9 years old. Okay? So in the dream, my daughter must be around 11 or 12. They're now 13 and 16. All right, so he looked at me puzzled, and I said, I saw you in the future, not happy, and avoided me. And the ancestor said, that's right. And in that moment, I began to cry in the dream. And I said, you would reject me and not want to come visit me. We're talking about the prodigals now, okay? And she said, that's right. Like if she already knew that would happen. And my daughter is listening and she is quiet. She's trying to gather what I'm saying. And I began to cry, very saddened by what I was stating, because I had already lived it in real life. It's as if in the dream I went back in time and I was trying to tell them that something in that house, okay, was cursed, okay, and that it was affecting the relationship that we had amongst each other. And I was trying to tell them, okay? And in the dream, it's like I already knew that we already lived it. So it's like something is occurring with that specific detail. Okay, so now, and I was experiencing how much it hurt me before it even hurt me in the dream. And in the dream, he begins to cry. feeling hurt by the things I was saying, and I began to cry very hard and still trying to explain what was happening. Okay? And he was crying because, of course, he did not want to avoid and reject. He has been, I know he's a very sweet boy, okay? But he doesn't understand why I'm saying that. Then Ruach HaKodesh begins to pray for me, and I hear, Shema, which means, alas. Shema stands for and Shema means north. It also means a gleam of amber. It also means I am in the whisper. On Chaim Ben Torah, he gives a little more insight. It's a word study, Yahuah speaking in silence. Ezekiel 1:4, I looked, and lo, a stormy wind came sweeping out of the north, a hue cloud and flashing fire surrendered by radiance, and in the center of it, in the center of the fire, a gleam of amber. It also means north, and it means wind. The word Ezekiel chooses to gleam of amber is hazmal. This is one of the few times in Hebrew where scholars draw a blank on what the root word for hazmal is. Perhaps the reason is that these scholars did not study the Talmud nor entered into a hazmal with Yahuah. So it's going to be an eternal perceive of what he's going to tell you, what it means, okay? Will you quiet your own mind? The first letter of the word hazmal is really a hey rather than a chet. In other words, the first letter is a definite article, and the root word is shamal, which is clothing, a covering, or a protective covering. Excuse me. Okay, so the hey, the difference between het and hey is slight and often overlooked. The hey is identical to the het, except for the upper left hand corner there is a small opening called the narrow gate. Still, I will not accept the fact that even such a small error exists in the word of Yahuah. The simple fact that is that we don't know what the root word is, and we just have to deal with it. Most scholars believe that it is a word for a bright, shining object, but we really are not sure of that meaning. But most translators just follow tradition and settle for either a shining or gleaming amber or metal. Amber is merely fossil tree resin, which can be polished to the point where it does gleam. Amber was made famous in the movie Jurassic Park, where dinosaurs were cloned from the DNA of a dinosaur's blood trapped in a mosquito that was covered in a resin of amber. The word hazmal is used only 3 times in the Old Testament, all in Ezekiel, all in the same context, 1:4, 1:27, 8:2, and all giving a definite description of what Ezekiel saw as the center of the manifestation of Yahuah. The Septuagint renders this in the Greek as electrum. Used in Revelations 1:15 in the same context, this is the word where we get electron and electricity. Thousands of years before mankind knew of an electron or electricity, that is what Ezekiel used to describe what he saw, perhaps in the form of lightning. Electrum is a modern term used to describe a naturally occurring alloy of gold and silver, which colors range from pale to bright yellow. Like the sun, it was a precious metal used in ancient coinage. It is used as an excellent conductor of electricity. The Hebrews recognized gold to symbolize the light or glory of Yahuah and silver as his holiness. Both are combined in one element in electrum. Gold was believed to be the skin of the deities, because all metal except platinum will grow warm in your hands, except gold, which remains cool and elusive like the deities. Perhaps it is the refusal to accept that the ancient sages understood the concept of electricity in the formation of the word hazmal, because of the Talmud teaches that it could also be a compound word meaning silence, hash, and speaking, miel. Electricity is silent, yet it speaks to us in its flashes. Perhaps the sages saw the energy in lightning and it felt it was silent witness. I read something very interesting in the Talmud in Chagiga 13b this morning, which addressed the mystery of prayer. For one to connect to Chazma of Yahuah, one first must be silent to cut away the kalipos. One can hear the mi'il of Yahuah. Mi'il means speaking, remember? In other words, the Hazmal of Yahuah is silence and speaking in silence. What Ezekiel saw in the center of the flashing fire, cloud, and wind was the Hazmal, the silent speaking of Yahuah. A few weeks ago, I spent a week living in silence. I had a book coming out in January entitled Journey into Silence. In silence, I heard the world weep. I heard the cry of the world. I believe this was the Hazmal of Yahuah. Yahuah speaks to us in silence, for silence cuts away the kalipos. Kalipos is your own thoughts. Okay. We silence our own fleshly thoughts. Okay, so it's a beautiful description of love and passion for the Most High. Okay. Then he says, Yah, Yah, times 50 times. Yahuah, Yahuah. Okay? That's strong number 2143. And he says, he who creates existence. And I woke up crying and stating Yah, Yah over and over. And I woke up still crying and feeling much heartache and missing my son dearly. He is so precious to me. There was an encounter on 4/11 when he looked depressed and serious and would not smile. So I had this dream. 4/23/25, but prior to that, we had an interaction. Okay? So it kind of seemed like we had lived this moment already. Now I'm contemplating the stuffed animal Care Bear. My children had never had a Care Bear toy in real life. Okay? So I'm not necessarily saying all Care Bears are evil. Okay? I'm not saying that. But in this particular dream, it was showing me that there was an object in the home that needed to be thrown away. Not only that, but it was cursed and needed to be broken down and needed to be destroyed. The curse needed to be destroyed. This is not the first time that Yahuah had me destroy a cursed object. To give an example, I had been dealing with a lot of warfare at work, and there was a woman that she does practice pagan arts, and she had left some trinkets at the shared desk station, and one of the items was this totem cup, had totem imprint on it, and there was other items as well, and he says there were cursed items, and I grabbed it with a tissue. I held it with a tissue, right, and I put it in a bag, and then I walked around, and then I slammed it against the concrete floor to break it. Why? Because Yahusha told me to break it. That curse needed actually physically broken. And you're going to be like, oh my gosh, you just broke someone else's item? Yes. And they tried to get me in trouble for it, but I told them what I believed happened there. And of course, it was a woman that wanted my position, okay? Out of um, all the time that I had been there. So, she ended up getting in trouble for harassing and not letting me enjoy my position, and was antagonizing other employees there of wanting my position. And that is that. So what happened here, what I noticed is, in order for the prodigals to return, something in the past, a cursed item that would look innocent to the regular civilian. But when you pray for discernment, okay? When you are a seer, you get to see things that not everybody gets to notice. So Yahuah allowed me to see that individual had cursed the item. And as long as that trinket was there, it was holding that curse of betrayal and division in the family. Okay? In another video, that individual was disclosed of who it is, but so now the same individual that was disclosed of who it was in the past was the same ancestor that was sitting next and was saying, almost agreeing, saying, like, that person already knew that all of those betrayals and all of those rejections was going to happen. So it made it known that there was some colluding of there was some orchestrating of some witchcraft, okay, that was trickery, because it was looking like like a care bear situation, a caring person, but really behind the scenes it was an evil care bear, an evil caring person, okay? And their intentions were to disrupt that union, so that the attention and the swapping of destiny could occur, where that ancestor could reap those children for themselves. But it ended up backfiring in real life, okay? Because in real life, the individuals did not want to engage with that individual, that ancestor. I don't know if they had a discernment of what was going on, of those intentions, or if they received other insight from others, okay? I don't know. But in the dream, I was going back to the past, and I was rewriting the present dimensions of time, so that the future would be blessings, barakas. Okay? So in other words, there was evil altars built, constructed in the home, and it was being held by, it was affecting, it was a witchcraft that would cause the voice of myself not to be heard. Did you notice that, where I was trying to break it and it was not allowing me to? So then I had to use a weapon, okay? So that means the armor of the spirit, the sword of the spirit. Do you remember? And I had to use the word of Yahuah to break and break that yoke, break that curse. It had to be totally dismantled from going into the past dimensions of time, from that age when it occurred in real life. And that day when it occurred, that real dismantling occurred in real life. Okay? So that's been this journey. So now Yahuah is saying, to place into existence, this means aligning your destiny with the rewrite after destroying the cursed objects. So resolving by rebuilding from when it went wrong to make things right. Okay, so cursed items. It represents the presence of evil in otherwise innocent object, possibly through a deliberate curse or demonic influence. It serves as a reminder that even objects from the realm of childhood and innocence can become conduits for wickedness or rebellion against Yahuah. So in other words, it was operating under the spirit of rebellion. Okay? The individuals who thought they could poorly influence for their own selfish gain. Okay? Instead of sharing the individuals, they thought they could contribute hardship so that way they could keep them from themselves, but it ended up backfiring. Okay? So, what does the Bible say about cursed objects? The objects associated with idol worship or occult practice can be considered as cursed and should be avoided and or destroyed. Detestable objects not be brought into one's home lest they become a source of destruction. Okay, so in other words is detestable and devoted to destruction. The Bible refers to objects used as an idol worship or occult practice as detestable, abominable things that are set apart for destruction. Okay, so there's been quite a bit of dismantling of generational curses and or the spirit of betrayal going on. Okay? And these individuals who had been contributing to the wickedness, the division, okay, spirit of betrayal. Only Yahuah, the Most High, knows if they are truly repentive of their actions and or still with the program, the wicked program, okay? Either way, though, Yahuah is attacking from all angles. He's attacking from and rewriting your story. Okay? This is the second time where Yahusha gives me a dream when he has them come through the door. They look like the same age as when the last time I saw them, which was 4 years now. Okay? So now, so what's going on is, if they're looking that age, that means they're bringing, Yahuah is bringing back the innocence, the trueness of heart, their the favor and the youth. Okay, he's bringing back their innocent mindset. Okay, they're going to be able to see you like they once saw you before. in joy and in gladness to see you. That's how they're going to return, is with this a brand new heart. Okay? The innocent of the child is going to return. And this dream is not to hold grudges towards those individuals that had a malicious intent. Yahuah would be the one to defend you in that matter. What matters in this moment is, in this hour, he allowed you to see what was hidden. Okay? He's saying, that word that he said, he who creates existence. He's putting you into their existence. He's putting you into existence in their memory, how they used to see you. Why is this so important that I keep saying this? Because how they had been seeing you lately in these past years, the prodigals, is with different eyes. Okay? It's with exactly what was stated in the dream. And now Yahuah is going to open their eyes to see that you were not the enemy all along. When I continue to research the word Yahyah, Yahya, is a name in Arabic origin that represents the Arabic form of the Hebrew name Yohanan, meaning Yahuah is gracious or Yahuah has found favor. Hallelujah. Hallelujah, because Yahuah has found favor in the circumstance because you used his power. You didn't change things in your own power. You couldn't have. This was spiritual warfare besides physical warfare on earth. And you concluded him in your deliverance. And you have favor of the King of Kings. And so now he has allowed you to dismantle something that was hidden. Okay? So be ready, because the Most High has told me, as soon as I provide all of the prophetic words regarding the prodigals onto this channel, they will return. I only have a few left. Thank you so much for joining me on this Supernatural Diaries. Put a heart emoji if you are standing for your prodigal to return. And I will see you on the next video. Shalom.